Hello, everybody. You're watching the Mike Nelson Show. If you haven't subscribed to the channel already, make sure to subscribe right now. Today, I got a pretty awesome guest. I'm here with the legendary Albert Bouchard, formerly of Blue Oyster Cult. How you doing today, Albert?
I'm doing great. Very good. It's a beautiful day here in New York.
Yeah, here too. It's actually like mid 70s. It's the weather's been warm. It's already in California. It's already summertime, but it's pretty nice out here too.
Yeah, yeah.
So, talk to me. You recently mentioned in your email that you practice with some of the Blue Oyster Cult guys. Is that true?
Yeah, that's correct. Well, they're the current bass player and drummer in Blue Oyster Cult, Danny Miranda and Jules Rodino, and my Joe and myself we're practicing for this special show. It's the 20th anniversary of the Long Island Music and Entertainment Hall of Fame, which is the Hall of Fame on Long Island that we belong to. And it's not just rock; it's everything. It's John Coltrane is in there, and Louis Armstrong and Duke Ellington. So, yeah, we're in good company. So anyway, we're playing this show to honor Billy Joel. So we're playing a Billy Joel song too. So. It was great fun. We just we can't practice for the next month because of we just couldn't get it together. There was too many, because I have to practice with the Dictators for the tour with the Damned, which is coming up, and I also have my Glee Club doing a concert for them, and then right after that we're singing at City Field for the Mets. So yeah, I have a busy schedule for about the next month, a little bit more than a month, and then it kind of gets a little more calm.
So when is this special show? It's for Billy Joel. When is it? It's later this year.
It's June 7th, yeah, June
Okay.
7th, and there's a lot of acts. There's Billy Joel's daughter. I don't know if you've seen any of her videos, but she is performing, and uh, the two guys that are still left from Run DMC, they're playing. They're doing a they're doing a Billy Joel song, and uh, and they'll probably do Walk This Way, I guess. Maybe they want us to play with them. That would be great.
Yeah, they
But
would.
and I can play that song.
Yeah, actually, I got a pretty funny Billy Joel story because when I saw him play here at Dodger Stadium, he actually played with Axl Rose, and
Wow.
they played Back in Black. Because back in those days, Axl Rose was on AC/DC. I don't know if you remember, and they
Yeah,
did
yeah,
Back in Black, so that was pretty awesome. So, Billy Joel's always been a rock and roll fan.
yeah. I've known him for quite a few years, so uh, yeah, he's a good guy. But so and then who else? Oh, the Young Rascals are playing. Well, the two guys that are left from that one. You know, you take what you can get at this age.
Yeah, whoever's still around, right?
Yep, yep. So and there's some other acts. Zebra is playing, and who else? I don't know. There's about eight. Jimmy Webb. There's about eight acts on the bill. So it's a big show. It's a big venue, and supposedly it's almost sold out. So
It's awesome.
yeah.
So talk to me about, of course, the Blue Oyster Cult recently released Ghost Stories, and of course you're on it because it's a compilation of a lot of, older songs, and talk
Yeah.
to me a little bit about that release if you can give me some insight on it.
Okay. So that is something that we actually. I think the idea was born. Joe and I. We were at the Long Island Hall of Fame Museum for a show. I can't remember what it was about. It was about the different nightclubs on Long Island where a lot of us played. And there was, Twisted Sister was there, Vanilla Fudge. There was a whole bunch of people that were there. So Joe and I were there to represent Blue Oyster Cult. And their manager was there. And he said, "Hey, just got this idea. Why don't we put out a record with all we did multi-tracks of a lot of as we're practicing for the record, we'd be working up different songs, and we worked up a lot more songs than we ever used. So he said, why don't we put out a record with that on it, and of course, because Joe and I were the most prolific in the band, we were going to have the most songs on this record because we had the most songs that didn't get put on records.
Wow.
So it was really cool. So, and we're like, yeah, yeah, let's do it. Joe's like, what do you need me to do? So, so we did. We ended up. We had to do a little bit of work on the songs, like especially the vocals, because the vocals were not really not up to snuff. It was most of the time it was all live. So you're trying to play your part and trying to remember the words, and I know that I had to do one vocal over again because it was horrible. It was like I half sang it. And the thing is that I wanted to change the words completely. And of course they said, no, no, you can't do that because you're leaking into your drum mics.
Wow.
So I had to sing the same thing, but there was all stuff that was left out and stuff. So I just sang it the same, you know, as what was there, but with different lyrics. I was able to do different lyrics, but I had to do the same exact phrasing, so you wouldn't hear the other vocal.
So back in those days, you guys had a lot of like songs. You didn't end up using it on the album. Is that kind of what happened then? You guys always
Yeah,
had outtakes. Yeah.
yeah, there's lots of outtakes all the time. I mean, by the time we got into cutting the record, we would have it within two or three. So and a lot of those outtakes have already been put on to, Columbia Records, releases. So, but these were stuff that never even got cut in the studio. So, so it was, I mean, we really didn't even think that, that anything was going to happen with these songs. And I remember there was couple of songs that I wrote that I thought, wow, these songs are really good. Like Only Thing That Lasts Forever. I thought that was a great track, and then we did it in rehearsal. Don sang this amazing lead. I was like, wow, this is great. And then, whoever was the producer said, nah, I think it was Tom Werman. Said, nah, I don't think we need this. This doesn't sound enough like BOC. And then he made a record that sounded nothing like BOC. So go figure.
Now let's kind of go to the beginning of BOC. What was going on in New York? Back in those days, late '60s, early '70s. Tell me a little bit of what was going on back then.
Well, there was a big club scene. I'll tell you that there was a lot of places to play. I don't think it's not quite like that anymore, but especially for little, I mean, there were places to play, and when we first started, we got it wasn't Blue Oyster Cult. It was a band called Soft Red Underbelly, and we played out at Stony Brook College, and there was a lot more freedom out there to just play anything. I mean, when we go to the clubs, people would want to hear Three Dog Night, or what was the other one? Doobie Brothers, or the stuff that was happening, like cover band stuff. But at the college, we were able to just jam. We could just jam on a song the whole night, and everybody was okay with it. So that was how we really got started, as a group. Joe and I started playing in a band when he was 10 and I was 12, and with my cousin who was 11. So and his cousin who was also 11. So yeah, they were 11. They were a little younger than me. So I was the oldest. I was 12.
Wow.
And and we that first year we played, I think three gigs maybe, and they were all for the Boy Scout dance.
Wow, not a lot was happening there, right?
Yeah, they paid us like $5 for the group for the
Wow.
five, $1 a piece. Wow.
Well, dollar was more than it is now, though, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
that's true. That's true.
yeah,
I socked it away.
yeah,
I thank
yeah,
it.
yeah.
So yeah, so by the time I got to college, I had played like, I don't know, 300 gigs. You know,
Wow.
it was like 7 years of playing gigs. And towards the my last year of high school, we played like every weekend, two gigs, Friday and Saturday. And then in the summer, we'd play like almost every day. We'd play block parties and little clubs. We'd play fraternity parties up in, down in Syracuse, up in Potsdam, all the college towns we go to. I could drive by then, so I was driving the band around. And then I met Don Roser in college, and we had a college band that for the first year we sucked, and then the second year we just got it together. We had made a few changes in the band. The rhythm guitar player became the bass player became the organ player, and all of a sudden we clicked as a band, and we started working on our harmonies. So we got very popular. We were making $1,000 a week playing in 1967,
Yeah. It's a
which
lot
is
then. Yeah.
yeah, it was a fortune then. How could we stay in school when we could make that kind of money? Of course, we dropped out, and we realized that the only place we could make that kind of money was in Potsdam, in the surrounding areas. So yeah, we went from making 1,000 to $15.
Wow.
It was like whoa, but then we found these people at Stony Brook that would let us play, and that was great. It was great. We really I had been writing songs since I was in high school, so I was the main songwriter. But when I got into the band, I just didn't know I didn't know what to do. I would. Here's the thing: is that when I was writing songs in high school and stuff, I was living out in the sticks, way, 400 miles away from New York City, all the way upstate. So I could just totally rip off another song and people wouldn't even notice, you know, that I'd done that. So I came to the city and all of a sudden, we're opening the show for Muddy Waters. We're playing with Chuck Berry. We're opening for Vanilla Fudge, who were very popular at the time, opening for Jefferson Airplane, Grateful Dead, the band, all these amazing groups, who are really creative. So I couldn't do what I did before. I had to find my own voice, and I think as a band we had to find our own sound too. So at first we didn't really even have any songs. We just kind of jammed. But I started writing songs. I started writing songs with Sandy Perlman, who was our manager, and when that, and then we started getting a little bit of attention, but it took a long time, for us. I came to the city in '67, and we got a record contract with Elektra in '68, just a year after I got here, and it was like a magical year for me, meeting all these celebrities and playing for them and playing with them, and just uh, probably 100 people I could name that we played with. It was just amazing experience. We weren't making any money. I was still asking my parents to send me some dough. But but we were here in the middle of everything, So we got this electric deal. We got enough advance to buy some decent equipment, and then the wheels started falling off. The lead singer quit. And they loved the lead singer. And we got Eric Bloom in the band, and they hated Eric. The lead singer who quit was like very attractive, just a extremely handsome guy, and Eric, of course, is not. He's kind of funny looking, you know, in that Jeff Lynne style.
Yeah, it's hard to see him without the shades, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah. Anyway, so and we realized that, we realized that they were biased against us, because Eric wasn't as handsome as the other guy. But he really, in my opinion, he was just as good a singer, but they weren't, I don't know. Who knows what these things, we weren't that together really as a group, we didn't even really have a sound, we're kind of like a San Francisco jam band. That's what Quicksilver Messenger Service type of deal, or
Yeah.
Grateful Dead, We played some Grateful Dead songs, and our songs were very influenced by the West Coast sound. So, yeah, very hippie band.
That was going on back then, right? So
Yeah, yeah, that was the thing. Love, peace and love, and free love.
now, when you released the first album, though, I mean, wouldn't you say though you guys kind of were one of a kind? Like there was nobody else kind of playing like Blue Oyster Cult, especially when that album came out, the debut album. I mean, it was kind of
Yeah.
something that nobody ever heard before, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. Well, I know that at that time I had gotten into this group called Black Sabbath, and they had two records out, and my brother-in-law, my first marriage, uh, my my wife's brother had both the records. So I used to crank up the stereo in the garage, set up my drums, and play along with Bill Ward, And I really liked his approach to the songs. It reminded me of King Crimson or Yes, or kind of that prog rock kind of drumming. So
Just
when
heavier, right?
yeah, just heavier. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
The guitar was slow. The
yeah.
drums
The
fast.
drums was very heavy. Yeah.
Yeah, very heavy. It was like really heavy. So I thought, oh, we could do this. But we couldn't slow down that much. We were all like, adrenaline, going crazy. So it wasn't exactly like Black Sabbath, and also really we still had that kind of like West Coast vibe, So it was like, but it also we had a little bit of the New York vibe. So it's New York and plus Black Sabbath. So I think we were closer to. I mean, I always thought we were more like King Crimson than Black Sabbath, but you
Now with the first album, you guys played were back in those days, especially with this first record, you can kind of hear different genres, like you mentioned with King Crimson. So you guys were kind of going for that kind of progressive sound already back in those days.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think that we all really like that stuff, and we were pretty good musicians. We could play that. We could play all those fancy licks. So but what not necessarily what Columbia wanted. In the beginning, I think we were trying to give them what they wanted. Because we'd auditioned for them 5 times and they turned us down every time. It wasn't until we agreed to try and be more like Black Sabbath that they were willing to sign us. So
Now back in those days, was Sandy Pearlman really important then? Getting you guys signed and all that.
yeah, I mean, I came to New York and he was one of the first people I met, and I knew that this guy was like nobody I'd ever met before. He was a genius and and intellectual, and he knew everybody. He wasn't like socially awkward at all. He was, very outgoing, and he had it together, and you know the years of playing in the clubs and stuff, you'd always have somebody saying, "Oh yeah, I'm going to do this or that for you," and it would never happen. But when he didn't even say it, he just did it. You know, he just got us, to play to audition for Jack Holzman, and and it wasn't anything that he did that got us dropped. It was just because the lead singer quit and the bass player was insulting the art director, and it was like just all this really non-professional kind of things that certain people did in the band. Joe and I, when Joe came, the two of us kind of made them more professional because we'd been through everything, but by then.
Talking about your contribution to the first album, Cities on Flame with rock and roll. I mean, it became a fan favorite for a lot of Blue Oyster Cult fans. And was that kind of the first time you sung a song, or were you already kind of singing before?
Aha. Yeah. So it was another song. It was a song called Siren Sing Along. And we had worked it up, in the clubs, and it didn't seem to go over. And then eventually we got it to where it sounded pretty good. And then when Columbia wanted us to be like more like Black Sabbath, I thought, what if we put the beginning of the Wizard, on, mash that up with 20th Century Schizoid Man. So that's basically what we did. We did a mashup of Black Sabbath and King Crimson, and but I sang the same vocal that I did, but it had different chords. So
Wow.
I listened to the thing and I'm saying, what? On the second chord, I'm singing a major seventh. That doesn't work. But people didn't, you
Didn't
know,
notice that.
never heard it, so it was like, yeah, oh, that's cool. That's really weird. Yeah, so yeah, I think since then I don't sing the major seventh. I sing the right note.
No, how challenging was it to play and sing though? I mean, drummers
Oh,
always talk about that.
yeah, it was challenging, man. I mean, I ended up singing a lot of the songs on the records, but when we'd play live, Eric would have to sing it because I just couldn't. I couldn't play drums with the intensity that I wanted and sing at the same time. So yeah, I didn't. A lot of times he would sing the song live, and but it's weird. The weird thing is that now it's easy. I don't know what happened. I guess
Really?
maybe, yeah, just like I think it's really I found a way to play really the same parts, but more relaxed than I ever did before. So I don't really think about my drumming. I can concentrate on the singing and oh, and the other thing is in ears. So
Wow.
I wear in ears when I'm singing, and
Not back then, right?
yeah, well, the drums are really loud, so you can never,
Yeah.
even they don't want to crank the monitors by the drums because then the vocals go all into the drum mics. So there's no separation there. It's like it's a real tricky thing to get the drums loud enough. So they don't want to turn up the monitors on the drummer, but so I could never hear myself when I was singing. Yeah, that was part of the problem. I mean, I would sing the song when we first started, and I would listen. We recorded every show. So I listen after the show. I'd listen, and go, "Oh my God, okay, Eric, you got to sing this. That sounds terrible. I'm embarrassed." So, but it's different now. So
So you talked about, you say you guys recorded every show. Even back in those days, then you guys used to take your live shows very serious, then, right?
oh yeah, yeah. We in the very beginning we were never very happy with our studio records. They, even Secret Treaties, which is venerated,
Hmm.
it's we hated it. I mean, while we were in the studio, we thought it was great, but then when it came out, we're like, oh man, this doesn't sound half as good as Aerosmith. Get Your Wings just came out, and we're like, we played with them. We knew they weren't that good.
Especially live, right? Yeah.
Live,
Yeah.
they weren't good in the beginning. I mean, they got good eventually, but in the beginning, they were just a mess. They were having fist fights backstage. I mean, it was not just on, I mean, they were a mess in general, but they certainly got it together after a while. Um, so, yeah, I think that was it. Was Secret Treaties came out and we felt like, it really doesn't sound good. And so we concentrated on the live show. I think that was, I mean, it was easier to do that because we played a lot already before we got signed. We done all these gigs. We done residencies and in Scranton, PA, and playing up in the Catskill Mountains, and just doing, playing a week at the Inferno in Rochester that burned down. So yeah. So we played a lot, and I think that we knew that we had the ability to read an audience and to get them going. So
And then, of course, with "On Your Feet and on Your Knees," that live album, I think, kind of put the band on the map for a lot of people, right? That maybe had never heard Blue Oyster Cult outside of New York. Wouldn't you say?
yeah, yeah, that actually that went gold before Reaper was a hit. It was
Yes.
it was a steady burner, and one of the things about On Your Feet or On Your Knees, and maybe people don't realize this, is Jack Douglas had produced Aerosmith. Jack Douglas mixed On Your Feet or On Your Knees. We demanded we use Jack Douglas because we thought we want to sound as good as Aerosmith. And I think that, that was our first, like, really asserting ourselves in the studio or on a record with the management. And, after that, all the records sounded, they were competitive with Aerosmith or anybody. So.
So with when you guys did these live albums, did you guys go back in the studio and retouch things, or did you guys always kind of just put it out as it sounded?
Well, the one that On Your Feet or On Your Knees, I think I re-sang Cities on Flame. That was it. That was the
That was it.
only thing that we fixed. Uh, yeah, yeah. The second one, what was it? Uh, Some Enchanted Evening. We did a lot of fixes. Yeah.
Of course, that was kind of common back then. A lot of people were doing that, right? With the live albums.
Yeah, yeah.
Now let's move on to, of course, Agents of Fortune. For many people, not the best BOC album, or one of maybe the most not people really, of course, remember this album with "Don't Fear the Reaper."
Hmm.
Talk to me about this album. Did you guys know you had something special when you were making this record?
Absolutely, absolutely. Columbia had given us twice as much money. We went into the best studio in New York. We had one of the best engineers to work on it, and we knew we had the goods. We knew that Fear the Reaper was going to be a hit. I mean, I did. I think I think everybody in the band except for Don, who wrote it and sang it, all the rest of us thought this is a hit. He's like, I don't know. Blue Oyster Cult fans are going to hate this thing. I said, well, too bad. Too bad. We're going to sell 1 million, and we did.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, it was, of course, a legendary release. And a couple of the songs that contributed on, I wanted to ask you about, Sinful Love. Talk to me about that song and how it came about.
Okay, so I had this girlfriend that I lived with for, on and off. It was one of these, we'd go out for 6 months and then she'd go off with some other guy and then she'd come back and, can I come back? Yeah, of course, and then she'd go off with some other guy and come back and, and then I'd gotten married and then that fell apart because the woman that I married, I married her right before we started, right before we got signed, or well, I guess, yeah, right before we got signed. When we went right after I married her, we got signed to Columbia, and the next thing I mean, she thought that the band thing was like a little hobby that I grow out of, and I'd get a real job. And of course the band turned into a big thing. All of a sudden I'm gone for 2 months and she couldn't take it. She was not ready for that. She really thought that we weren't going to make it. So yeah, so our relationship fell apart. And so I went back with Helen for another time, like the fifth time or something, fourth, fifth time. And then we broke up again. Only it was me breaking up with her. I was like, this isn't working. You know what? You're a great friend. Can we just be friends? And she's like, yeah, we can do that. We can. You still like to smoke pot? I said, yeah. She said, me too. Let's, let's smoke some pot. And so we'd smoke pot and then we'd write songs. So this was one of the songs that, at the same time, I'd already been working with Patti Smith for a couple records. And she was both, she both idolized her and was jealous of her at the same time. So Sinful Love was really a song about Patti Smith.
So who's Debbie Denise?
Debbie Denise is about Patti Smith's one of her roommate who was gay and thought that maybe she could turn Patti, and my ex-wife Denise. So that's Debbie Denise, and it was a combination of the two characters. But they had the kind of the same thing, waiting, because she'd go away and with some guy, and then when she come back, because she got her heart broken or whatever, you know, Debbie would, think that, oh, I can make it all better, Patty. And, and Denise, of course, was waiting for me, and eventually the patience turned to anger.
Now with this record, did you guys try to have like a concept to this album with every song, or is it not really a concept album?
The concept was we were going to actually do songs that females might like,
That
because
was the concept.
that was never a consideration before that. And we're like, getting tired of seeing all these pimply faced guys. I mean, it'd be cool to see a girl or two.
Now with the track "Don't Fear the Reaper," were you in the room when that riff came about?
No, but I was there. I was, Donald was living out on Long Island in Melville, New York, about 60 miles away from the city. And I was in the Lower East Side, East Village. And so he called me up one night, and we'd been on the road, and all of a sudden we had 2 weeks off. So, and we'd all purchased these multi-track machines. This is when it started. So, it was 1974, and I had a couple weeks off. So I just wanted to try this thing out and, start trying to make music on it. And of course, I wrote a bunch of songs. And so I was working on a song right when he called. And he said, "Hey, Al, I got this riff, man. I think it's really good. What do you think?" And he plays it for me. And I'm like, wow, that really is I like that riff. It's kind of like the other thing that he did, which was called Teen Archer. So it was kind of the Teen Archer riff, except it was rhythm. Teen Archer was a big slab of a chord, and he put the two things there. And I thought, but he had taken that and turned it into like this rhythmic, propulsive riff, and I'm like, wow, that's great. I've never heard anything like that before. Said, yeah, well, I got an idea. I'm just gonna put it down right now, but I just wanted to let you know I got all excited. I said, oh yeah, I got some stuff too, and I played him a song called Imaginos. He said, wow, that's great too, man. We're gonna have a great record. So I saw, so I was there the day when he called me up to show me to me, so. Uh, and then we were playing in the Pacific Northwest. I think we had a show in Seattle. So we meet at the airport. He gives me a cassette. I put it in my Walkman. I put it on. I'm like, oh my God, Don, this is amazing. He's like, you think so? I said, this is great. This is great. He's very modest, and I said, can I hold on to this? He said, sure, I made it for you. So we get to Seattle, and at that time I had this girlfriend in Seattle named Monica DeMeo. And I said, Monica, I want you to hear this song that Don wrote. And so she puts on the headphones, she's listening to it, and then she starts crying. I'm like, what's the matter? She goes, "Are you breaking up with me?" I didn't write the song. Don wrote it, and it's not about a breakup. She's like, "Oh, oh, good."
That's funny.
She said, "It's beautiful. It's what a beautiful riff." I said, "Yes, it is. It's great." So
Now, of
yeah,
course, yeah. Now, of course, over the years, it's been kind of a running joke, the whole cowbell thing with Saturday Night Live. Who actually played the cowboy then on the actual recording? Was it you?
yeah, I played it, and it wasn't my idea at all. I kind of fought it. The real deal is that I wanted to play. I wanted to play a triangle. I wanted to
Triangle.
play
Wow.
a triangle in the middle of the song where it goes boom, 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 ding, boom, 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 ding. So that's what I wanted to do, and so I told the producers, because we had a track. I said, "Hey, I want to do this triangle part. I think it'll really just be like the icing on the cake for this thing." And one of the producers, there was three. There was Murray Krugman, Sandy Proman, and David Lucas. David Lucas, who was a jingle producer, said, "I would like you to play a cowbell in the verses. You can play the triangle, but play the cowbell in the verses." I said, "What do you mean, the cowbell? Like dunk, 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 dunk." He's like, "No, no, no, quarter notes, quarter notes." I said, "Isn't you think the drum track isn't steady enough?" He goes, "No, but it's all these eighth notes. I want to hear quarter notes." I'm like, "Okay, okay." So I dunk, 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 dunk. And we get to the end of the first verse, and I'm like, "Stop, stop, stop the tape. David, I think that sounds, what do you think, guys? I think it sounds awful." And David's like, "No, no, 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 don't hit it so hard." Or "No, no, I got an idea." And he comes out and he puts some tape around the cowbell. He says, "It'll be better now." And so I did it again, got to the end of the first verse. "No, no, 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 no. This doesn't sound right." And Donna's like, "Yeah, David, it's just kind of distracting. And Dave says, "Oh, come on, you just don't play so loud." I said, "Oh, how about if I use a timpani mallet? Because I always have those, because I'd like to do the mallets, especially in the drum solo. I take out the mallets and everybody go like, 'Oh, wow, good sound.'" So I grabbed one of the mallets and I played it with a mallet
Wow.
and stopped at, I said, "What do you think?" And Don says, "Yeah, I think that works. It works." Uh, I said, "Okay, let's do it again. We'll do it all. I'll do it all the way through. I'll do the cowbell and then I'll do the triangle." And Don said, "I want to play the vibra slap." I said, "Oh, okay, come on out here and play it." So he's playing the vibra slap in the middle section at the very end. He goes, and David Lucas, the producer, says, I think that we should use a güiro and at the end of the first verse." So that's what he did. He came out, played the güiro at the end of the first verse, and you can hear it there. But it was all one take, all on one track, no redos, So, but it was easy, This track was really pretty steady. It speeds up it towards the end, but getting to the end of this first hit. I mean, it's the song is about what happens after you die, but it's the happiest song ever. So we're gonna have a hit.
Yeah. But so back in those days, a lot of the songs that were kind of recorded live. Then you guys used to just do them all in one take, kind of thing. Is that how the first few albums were, or did you guys did
Yeah,
it overdubs even then?
first three, yeah, were definitely all one take. As a matter of
Wow.
fact, on the second record, "Hot Whales to Hell," I muffed up a part, towards the end, and I said, they said, "Oh, it was a great take." I said, "No, I screwed it up." They said, "Well," I said, "Can we punch in?" And they said, "No, you can't." You know, I said, "Well, then take it from the beginning. Just turn up the rhythm guitar, and I'll play the whole." So I actually overdubbed the entire drum track
Wow.
song. Yeah. I know
Now,
it's.
talking about that second album, I always was interested with the track, Astronomy that you wrote. Talk to me about how you wrote that song. I know you played piano when you were young,
Yeah,
and you always had an interest with that instrument, correct?
yeah. Well, I mean, I didn't really. It was I wanted to play the drums. I always wanted to play the drums, but my mom wouldn't let me. She said, "You have to learn piano first. If you're going to play music, you need to be able to play the piano because the piano is the foundation. You can." And I'm glad that she did, but I hated practicing, and it was against my will. But she said, if you can learn how to play the piano, I'll let you play the drums. So that was the deal. So I actually had to play piano for 4 years, and towards the end, it was just I I had a pretty good teacher at the beginning, but then it was a Catholic school, so she got reassigned to another parish, and I got this other teacher who was mean, and that was it for me for the piano lesson. I refused to practice, and you know, and the teacher finally told my parents, "You're wasting your money on this guy. He comes in, he's just as bad every week. He can't play anything." So, but I didn't want to. I was really like, it was a protest. I played 4 years already. Let me play the drums. So, yeah. So they did after that.
And with Astronomy, you wrote that then with on piano that whole track, or
Well, no. So that actually is on the third record on Secret Treaties,
Secret Treaties?
but
Yeah.
but it was written for Tyranny and Mutation, and Joe had written the music, the clock strikes 12, a moon dawns birth, and that was it. There was three verses of that, and it was very quiet, like a ballad. And Sandy Pearlman's like, you didn't use half the lyrics. You know, the story isn't even there. It's like, you didn't even, I'm calling it Astronomy a Star, and you didn't even use that in the song. And Joe's like, well, it doesn't need that. He was trying to sell it to Sandy that it's a nice little ballad. And so it was just sitting there. We recorded the record and we did not use that song. So, and also that record we didn't have any time to practice. We practiced a little bit, but hardly at all. So we started working it up for the third record, and I ended up living at Eric Bloom's house because that was when my marriage fell apart, and I didn't have a place to stay. So Eric let me stay at his house where the band would practice at his house. So he was not there. It was a night he was in the city with his girlfriend. And so I was by myself, and I had this other girlfriend, and I was trying to write a song for her, and I came up with this riff, and I'm like, wait, this is an E. Oh, I wonder if this would work with Joe's song. So I played Joe's song, and then I went into this other thing. I'm like, oh, it does. It fits perfect. And then I came up with the fast part and the ending. And when the guys came over and they heard it, I played it for them, and they're like, wow, this is good. This is good. And Sandy was delighted I'd used all his words. So so that was that, and we recorded it, and I knew it was good. Sandy wanted me to sing it, but the day that I was supposed to sing it, I did Dominance and Submission first. And doing that vocal, I'd totally blown out my voice. So I couldn't sing soft. I couldn't sing the beginning part. So I couldn't get in the front door of the tune. So we asked Eric to do it, and Eric had never he'd sung it I think only once in practice, because originally Joe was singing the whole thing, and then they had me sing the whole thing, and then so Eric hadn't really sung it, and so when he sang it, he sang the wrong words in the middle section. He sang four winds at the four winds. No, yeah, four winds at the four winds bar. It
Oh,
was supposed to be four doors at the Four
yeah.
Winds. One door's locked and windows barred. So he screwed it up, and of course Metallica. It's mistake has been repeated over and over now.
Yeah. What do you think about that? Like bands like Metallica, covering your song. How does that feel like all these years later?
It was awesome. It was awesome. I mean, I knew those guys. Uh, I did an article. I was writing for I wasn't in Blue Oyster Cult anymore, and I needed a job because they weren't paying me my royalties. So, or maybe just wasn't any. I don't know, but I wasn't getting any money from them, so I needed a job. So I started. I was teaching at a school called the Drummers Collective. I was doing private drum lessons. It was pretty good. And but all through that, I got a gig writing for Modern Drummer magazine.
Wow. Yeah.
So every month I would have a column, on how to play the drums, I got the Ride the Lightning record, and I was like, oh, I like what this guy is doing, Sanitarium and stuff like that. I was like, now this is a metal drummer that's really got something going on. So I asked him if I could write interview him and do a feature on him.
Wow.
And they gave me some shit. And it's like drummers talking to drummers. That's the most boring thing in the world, man. They're not articulate. I said, well, you already know I'm articulate. I'll talk your ear off. I had a feeling that Lars was, he was outspoken. So I thought this would be a good interview. So we did it. I interviewed him for Modern Drummer, and that's how I became friendly with the guys.
So were you a fan of like the '80s like metal scene, the thrash metal stuff, or
Oh yeah, yeah,
like Slayer and all that kind of stuff?
yeah. I was into that. Yeah, Slayer I liked. I mean, not every group. You know, I don't want to. I didn't really like Halloween very much, or
Okay.
or King Diamond. I don't know. This
Okay.
one just it's like I mean, and later, the thrash scene and all of that. Like I love Lamb of God, but I cannot stand the singer. I mean, I'm sure well, maybe he's not a perfectly fine guy, but it's just my not. I like a little bit of melody with my vocals.
Now let's go back to your last few years with Blue Oyster Cult. You didn't get a chance to sing a lot of songs on like the albums that came out through 79 to 81. Why
Yeah.
was that?
I think Eric was upset that, on Agents of Fortune, I sang, we recorded 12 songs and I sang six of them. So, Eric sang like three, but so they left off a couple of songs that I sang. And I think that Eric was upset that the drummer was singing more than the lead singer. So, and I didn't care. I didn't care if I sang or somebody else sang. I just wanted to make the best record possible, and I wanted people to feel good about being in the band with me. So I didn't care. The only reason I did that was because the producers wanted me to do it. You know.
Speaking of producers, talk to me about working with Martin Birch. Now a legend. He produced so many amazing albums. Talk to me about working with him.
Martin Birch was awesome. What a brilliant engineer, a really cool guy to produce the thing. He was really interested in not having a sound, not putting his stamp on a band, but just make them sound the best that they could possibly sound. So he would dive deeply into the music, and he was great. I love Martin. He was a fantastic. I learned a lot about making records from him. So, and he knew the gear. That was the thing. He really knew how to use the gear and make it sound great. And I'd say, "Oh, let's put this on there," and he'd go, "Now, there's a way to do it and a way not to do it." And I'm sure you. And he taught me, how to get good sounds. I
Yeah, like
really
with Fire of Unknown Origin, it's almost an album you could put on, and every song is great. What did you say on that one?
Yeah, that was the one where I don't, the first one I just was happy that he made us sound great. I didn't really know what he was doing, but the second one, he didn't want to produce the band because he said Eric and Don don't seem to be that interested. They're more in, they don't want to spend time in the studio. He said, I need somebody who's going to be there with me. I don't want to be working on the record when you guys are back home with your wives and whatnot, because I'm not with my wife, and I'm sacrificing to make this thing, and I need you guys to do it. I said, well, I'm separated from my wife, so I got nothing to lose, man. I'll be with you all the time. And so I was there for the entire process from note one to the final mix. I was there with Martin Birch, and I was sleeping in the studio. So it was part of we're coming up to where I got kicked out of the band. It's part of what happened with me was that I felt like I was doing all this so that we could have another hit, and then after the hit, they didn't appreciate me. They're like, "Oh, you just did it because didn't have anything else to do." I'm like, "Well, I could have been with my girlfriend, you know, but I don't know." So I felt unappreciated, and I think I mean, I'm going to therapy about it now, and I see that, you got to do things for yourself. You can't be always doing things for other people. Otherwise, you get resentful, and then that comes out in bad ways. I didn't behave. I wasn't myself. I'm gonna put it that way. With those guys, I was being a pain in the ass.
And when you got let go, did you ever think you would work again with them?
Oh yeah, I
You
thought
had that feeling you would come back.
they would come to their senses and say, "Come on back. We're tired of not making great records." Yeah, well, and but everybody's got their pride, so that never happened. But eventually, with time, we realized that we had something really great, and you know, so everything's good now. Like I say, I'm playing with the other guys, but I played with them last year, and I played with them the year before. So I've done a bunch of work with the BOC guys, and and we just put out a record together. So yeah, it's all good. It's all good.
Talk to me about the Imaginos project. How I know this was an early idea that you didn't get a chance to do in the 70s, but you got a chance to do it in the 80s. Talk to me about the story behind that.
Okay, so that was before Sandy Pearlman ever wrote a song. When I met him, he one day he had come. It was in 1967. He'd come to the band house, and we went up into the attic because some of us like to indulge in some illegal substances, and we
Well,
didn't
it's not
have.
illegal anymore, right?
Yeah, yeah, it's legal now. In
Legal now.
for the whole country, maybe I don't know. They just put in this thing in reclassifying it, as a now to Schedule One. But anyway, so we did not want the landlord to smell it. So we thought if we went up into the attic, he wouldn't smell it when he came by. So we were doing that, and Sandy was up there in the attic, and he started telling us this story about Imaginos, and this it was an epic story. It was going to take place over like 200-300 years, and Imaginos was going to be this, half human, half alien creature that influenced world history, and he'd wound it into the actual events too. That Imaginos was the catalyst to World War I, which turned into World War II, then etc. So all the wars were because of Imaginos, and then and he didn't really tell it. He basically that beginning that was basically what he was talking about was that the Imaginos causes the destruction of mankind basically, but. So we started making. So when I got kicked out, he said, "Don't worry, I'm working on getting you a solo deal." So because
Wow.
he really believed in me, so he got a deal with Columbia for me to do a solo project. So but at that point, I didn't care if I was in Blue Oyster. I was going to show them. It's like I'm, you're making a record. My record is going to be better, and it's going to, sell a lot more. Of course, it became it's easier said than done. And of course, the people that, first of all, I tried to get the thing to move along quicker. I remember saying that every day that we don't work on this thing is a day where there's less energy that's to put into it. And, part of making a record is trying to keep the energy up and keeping all the people that are involved engaged. And Sandy's like, but it doesn't sound the way blah blah blah. He give me all these excuses, and first it was the tracks aren't quite right, and then it was the vocals aren't right, and so I said, well, I don't have to sing it. We got a couple other people that come in and sing vocals that I thought were perfectly fine, and he's like, I don't know, the Columbia guys still don't like the vocals. I'm like, well, okay, we'll bring in a songwriter to rewrite the song, to make the vocals sound better. And he's like, oh, no, no. So what happened was it took so long. It took us, we worked on the song, the record for 3 years, 3.5 years. And then the fourth year, everybody that signed me left the company. So, and
Wow.
there was a whole new crew in there that didn't care at all about the project. So now we're really screwed, and so that's why they had to put it out as a Blue Oyster Cult record because they weren't going to spend a penny on promoting Albert Bouchard. So it was very disappointing, and at that point I realized maybe I was never going to be a professional musician anymore, and I had to get another job. So that's what I did. I did other things. I was a I was a refrigeration mechanic for about a year. Then I drove a taxi cab for a year, and then during the taxi cab period, I started teaching at this drum school and get
Wow.
involved in that. And then from the teaching in the drum school, I taught in a regular high school for 31 years. So
Wow.
made a career out of that, and that was good. It was a great career. I ended up making a lot of money, and got a pension and health care
Mhm.
for life, and so it worked out for me. You know,
So you taught music at a high school?
yeah, yeah. I
That's
mean, I
awesome.
did everything in the high school. I was the assistant principal. I was the
Uh,
dean. I did every job in the 31 years. You get to move around. I was the fill-in teacher whenever somebody would be out. I would
substitute. Yeah, I've done that before. Yeah.
substitute. Yeah, yeah, be substitute teacher. I love that, especially math,
Yeah,
because
it's easy, right? You just got the lesson plan and that's it.
well, I found that I came to this realization watching other math teachers because every teacher would have their way of doing it, and the thing
Yeah.
is, math is kind of cool because there's really only one solution.
Yeah.
But how you get that solution is almost infinite. So there's all different ways that you can think about it. I mean, I learned when I was young that how Pythagoras figured out the theorem, the Pythagorean theorem, was with
Yeah.
blocks, with actual blocks. and measuring the blocks.
Yeah.
He's at a construction site and he's figuring it out. So, so he figured it out with geometry, but you know. So anyway, yeah, I loved doing math, but I liked history too because I was really bad in school at it, and I just liked it. It was like stories, and we had some great history teachers, so I would watch other teachers, work, you know,
Yeah.
sit in on their class and just see what's going on. Especially, when I was assistant principal, then that was my job, so. But yeah, and then they kicked me back into the classroom, which was great, because I was really getting tired of dealing with the teachers all the time. And they would come in and think I was going to get them or something, get all paranoid. So yeah, so I love getting back in the classroom. It was a great, last 15 years, just doing music all the time, well, and deaning too. A lot of the kids wouldn't come to my class, so excuse to get out of the class and go chase them around.
That's funny.
Yeah.
But talk to me about your latest release, Imaginos 3. You mentioned
Yeah.
this is the final part of the trilogy. Talk to me
Yeah.
about that. It came out early this year, right?
Yeah. 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 And yeah, great. It was really well. It came out the end of last year,
End of
actually.
last year, that's right. I'm still thinking we're in 23. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, so I done Reimaginos was I would get all these emails, and comments on YouTube or stuff saying, oh, your demos, for Imaginos were better than the record, and I wish, could you ever really, re-release that, as the demos as the version of Imaginos, and I would say I don't have the tapes. I don't know where they are. They don't belong to me. They belong to Columbia. So I'd have to, and I have approached Columbia about doing that exact thing, and I get crickets. So they ghosted me. So, if I call them up and say, "Where's my royalties?" They'll call me right back. But talk about
Hmm.
that. It's not an issue. So I didn't realize that they didn't have the tapes. They didn't know where they were. Nobody knew where they were. And I found out about, well, it was after I put out Reimaginos. Like 6 months later, somebody called me and said, "Oh, we found these tapes with a name on it." I'm like, "Oh." So they're in a climate controlled storage space in San Francisco now. But anyway, so I was I was hanging out with my bass player David Hirschberg, and he said, we should just re-record these songs. I love these songs; they're great. He only met Sandy once, but he thought he was fantastic, and he loved Sandy's material. So he was like, "We should do this." I said, "Okay, well, let's try." We had a little group. We had a drummer and a keyboard player. So the four of us started making little demos, and I'm like, "Whoa, this could be good. This could be really good." So I started thinking seriously about it, and I had a manager at the time, and he said, "Let me see if I can get you a record deal for this." And so he got the deal with Deco, and they agreed to put it out. And so I recorded it all. I had about I don't know, half a dozen, maybe more, maybe about 8 or 9 people that helped me out. I had a fiddle player. I had R.J. Ronquillo play some lead guitar. I had Ross the Boss played on a couple songs. I had Jack Rigg from the original Imaginos band play, and I had Greg Holt play some violin, and I had my little band, my quartet there. I had some of them. Some of them had done some work before the pandemic, because when the pandemic came, you couldn't get together in person anymore. So, and they didn't have setups in their house like Ron Cahill or my brother Joe played some trumpet. So I got some people to help me out, I put it out, and right away, as soon as it came out, people were like, "Are you going to do the other, the other parts of the story?" And I said, "Well, we'll see how this goes." I had put out three solo records that had not made any money. They were money losers, and so I thought, I don't know. If it sells, yes. If it sells, I'll do it. And of course, it actually made the charts. I made tens of thousands of dollars on it. I was like, whoa, okay, yeah, I'm doing it. So so then the next one, I had more people help me out. Maybe, I don't know, you know, 12 people helped on that one. And that was good. And I incorporated a song that Sandy hadn't written, that was written by David Roeder, that seemed to fit because the theme of the second one is the mirror has been discovered, it's been brought back to England, and now it's causing chaos. It causes, there's revolution. These countries start having revolutions and bloody revolutions, and World War One starts and World War Two starts. And so this was what Sandy planned. And then so that one came out and it did very well, made money. And then I went to do the third one, and I could not remember anything that Sandy said except that it was going to be called the Mutant Reformation, so that life would continue, but not human life. So I had to think of how could we have mutants, mutations, be part of the thing, and so I thought, well, what I'm going to do is first of all, I'm going to have as many people help me, everybody that I know, that I can invite on board my ship, to sail this thing into the sunset. I asked, and some people said yes and then couldn't do it because of scheduling or whatever. And then, but most people said, they were able to come through for me, eventually, like Mike Watt or Chasm Sultan. I wanted to work with Chasm for years. And in 2016, I played half a dozen gigs with Blue Oyster Cult. And,
Yeah.
Chasm was playing the bass, and I was like, I always liked him. He's just a cool guy, and a regular guy, and a great bass player, and a really good singer. So the third record has the most people. I think there's 36 people that help me out on the record, and it also has the most songs. There's 18 songs. It's like just enough, just long enough to fit on a single CD. So, but it's a double album, and it sounds really great. I had this amazing mixer, Steve Hardy, did mix the whole thing, did a fantastic job, and yeah, I'm very proud of it. I think it's the best thing I've ever done.
Yeah, it sounds great. So, last question here. What do you have coming up for 2024? I know you got some shows coming up. Just to give our listeners, an overview of what's going on for Albert Bouchard to close out the year.
Yeah, I got lots of stuff going on. I have I just looked at on my calendar, and I have, I think, 22 dates
Wow.
coming up. So the next thing that I have is I'm singing with this men's glee club, and we do like classical music, Wagner and Brahms and stuff like that. So we're doing a concert on May 14th. Then on May 29th, I'm doing from May 29th for the next 6 days or 5 days. I'm doing some gigs with the Dictators, opening for the Damned. So we did that last year, and it was great. It was great. Those guys are fantastic. I never realized how great they were. I mean, they were great back in the day, but they've only gotten better over the years. So they put on an amazing show, and it's a great synergistic combination of the Dictators and the Damned. So that I'm looking forward to that. And then after that, on that's the end of May and into June, and then right after that I have the Billy Joel concert, and then for with the Long Island Music and Entertainment Hall of Fame, and then the Glee Club is singing for the New York Mets, singing the
Oh,
national
wow.
anthem at a baseball game, and that's on the 14th, I think 14th. Or no, maybe it's 11th. Yeah, and then I don't really have anything until July. And July there's going to be a event in my hometown where all the bands that came up when we came up, uh, they're going to be honored. There's going to be an
Wow.
event with a band that's playing our songs, and actually my high school band, we're honoring another band, so we're playing Ray John and the Wanderers that you've never heard of, but
Hmm.
because they never left, they were always up there,
Yeah.
uh, so we're gonna honor them and play some of their songs. Then other people are gonna honor us and play some BOC stuff. So that's gonna be a fun gig. And then in August, I'm playing a solo gig at the Iridium in New York City. And then starting in the middle of September and going through the first week in August, I'm going to be in UK doing solo gigs there, songs and stories. So yeah, that's my 22 gigs right there.
I mean, a
And
busy year.
probably there's going to be some more after that because the Dictators record is coming out in August. So
Maybe a U.S. tour for the Dictators, or
not well, just these few gigs with the Dan. We're playing Boston, Norwalk, Connecticut, New York City,
okay.
Kent, Ohio, and Chicago. So that's it for now. But we're gonna come back and do more dates. I just heard. I don't know if I'm supposed to say this, but I'll say it anyway. So we got a cruise. I'm not going to say what it is because I don't even know if it's really. Supposedly it was confirmed, but I'm not sure if I'm supposed to say anything. But the Dictators are going to play one of these cruise things too. So I've never done it
Wow.
before. So
That's awesome.
they tell me it's a lot of fun. So
That's great. Well,
yeah,
Albert, I want to thank you for your time today. It was great talking to you.
yeah, same here.
Thanks for watching, everybody. Remember to stay heavy and make sure to subscribe to the channel. Have a good day.
Yeah.